Hi everyone, and welcome to another weekly forecast. So today we're going to start off with the euro and the US dollar. So for the euro US dollar, last week we had some good intraday sort of scalp trades. At the moment we can see since roughly mid-November, price has just been going sideways. So at the moment on the daily time frame, price has just been ranging, hasn't really broken any significant structure, it's not made any significant moves. So as you can see here, we've got some equal highs. So we're going to start marking out some areas of interest. So these equal highs are showing us that we've got some liquidity there. Okay, and we've also got these higher lows here as well. So this is showing us we've got liquidity in these areas. So let's just drop this down just a tad. There we go. So we've got some liquidity both sides, all right? Now let's zoom out a little bit and let's have a look at the wider picture. So this impulsive move here is broken this structure and this one here. So let's mark this as a break of structure. Oh. So we've got this break of structure and we've also got this demand zone just here. Let's stretch this out here, let's just zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, so we've got this demand zone. Okay, this is the one that's broken this structure, it's broken this one here. And then we've also left a little bit of imbalance as well in certain areas. So we've got some imbalance about there. And a little bit just above the demand zone. So we've got, we do have some reason for price to come back down this way. Okay, so we did start mitigating zones within here. So if we look across where price has come down and it's reached these lows here, we have made some mitigations which I think was within these wicks just there. So we've got a demand zone with imbalance. Okay, so this is round about when price started to recover after the initial COVID panic in 2020. And then another point of interest that we've got here is this supply zone. Okay, so we've got this one just here. Okay, right, so let's mark this as supply. Right, so we've got these 2 points of interest here. So we've got a demand and we've got supply, so we've got two areas, and this is also left in balance as well. It's broken this structure, okay, but it hasn't broken any of this structure. This is where price has stagnated for the last almost 2 months. So let's mark out the imbalance. So this one's got some stronger imbalance. So this is what's making me think we might get a push up to here before we start pushing lower and following the order flow. Now if we drop down onto the 4-hour time frame, we'll also see, let's just move this imbalance here, we'll also see that we've got this area here. Okay, with a slight pullback and then another impulsive movement. So this is also taking my interest as well, so I'm going to mark this zone out, but because these are all higher time frame zones, we won't be looking to trade straight off them. Hold on, let's include that whole candle there. Yeah, I wouldn't be looking to trade straight off them. So what we'll be looking for is if price does break these highs, sweep this liquidity and tap into here, we should be looking for something similar to this. So if price does come back up, it gets rejected from that area, up again, doesn't break that high, and then we could look for a short from here. So we could look at a lower time frame supply zone that we could look at getting a mitigation from and entering from there. Now if that doesn't happen, we could look at something similar to this. Break past this, come back, collect more orders, push up to this supply zone, break lower time frame structure, come back up, mitigate a supply zone, and then continue back down. So this would be either one of those two scenarios would be a nice swing trade. And then on the flip side, what we could be looking for as well, if we don't sweep these highs first and we sweep the lows and we start pushing further down, we could look for something similar off the demand zone. So let's just get rid of that for now. Now if we go a little bit further down on time frames, so as you can see on Friday, we had quite an impulsive day or afternoon. This is what happened from NFP. Okay, so we didn't quite, so we've broken these highs here, we've broken this one. So let's mark these out as break of structures. Let's go with this one. So we've broken this structure, we've broken this one here. So we could potentially get a rejection from here because price did start to stall around here. However, that was the latter part of the trading day, so the volume could have just been dying down around that time in this area anyway. So we could be looking for a pullback down to somewhere around here because we've got quite a bit of imbalance here. So we've still got some imbalance along here in this area. Got a little bit between these two wicks as well. Okay, so we do have some reasoning for price to pull back lower. And what we could be looking at is a potential entry or a long position from somewhere down here, as price has shown us some bullish intent as it's breaking recent highs. And we could look to target the where's the supply zone? You look to target the supply zone up here. So if we can get into a long trade from around here, if the entry model presents itself, we could then look to target maybe the first supply zone as a take profit.
How's it going, everyone? We're going to be covering a simple forecast for the upcoming week on two different pairs, AU and GU. So I'm simply just going to go through and take a look at what has happened over the past week. What are some clear higher time frame mitigations we've seen, and as well as what we can expect in the upcoming week. So let's just have a look at early last week and see what happened. So essentially what happened is we started somewhere around here. So on 1st Jan was about this point here, and 3rd Jan was here. So really we were around this area here. Oops, around this area over here. So before this whole impulsive move, some sort of impulsive move or some sort of climb up happened, we were looking at a mitigation from here, right? So we had a demand zone just set here. Oops, sorry, not demand. We had a supply zone set here, and there was another supply zone set over here. So what essentially happened was I was looking for some shorts at this region here, right? Which you did see some sort of a reaction from. But this region did get broken up because what happened was that price returned back to the origin of this move down, which started from here. Essentially this big bullish candle, but if you refine it, it's this small tiny bearish candle down. So what we saw was a mitigation of this point here. So we got a very clear mitigation here. This is a properly defined supply zone. A lot of people might be looking for, continuations for buys over here. So there might have been some people looking at buys here and hoping to get, some buys here because it sort of matches the price action, right? So you just get mitigations over mitigations over mitigations. So if you were looking for buys there was absolutely nothing wrong. But after it broke several different points of structure, you should be aware of what the bias of the market was at that point. So if we just move forward into what happened in the week, so essentially there were quite a few short trades you could have taken down. This is a perfect example of a swing. So if you did take the swing, essentially your target might have been just this point here, which is another significant swing point on the higher time frame. So you would have set your take profit here and gotten in on here. Now, if we look at further, earlier or later this week, what we also got is essentially a mitigation over here out of this demand zone. So essentially for this upcoming week, with all this price action we've seen so far, so what we've seen is some movement up. So we've seen some bullish momentum kicking in over here, and then we got an impulsive move down, which is also followed by a mitigation of this supply zone to push price to this demand zone, which we're currently looking at. We'd want to see some potential buys at this point, right? You might be looking at this wick here. Oops. You might be looking at this wick here. Alright, there might be something in there. Or essentially if you drop to the 2 hour or the hour time frame, you'd want to be looking for some buys in this region or a continuation trade if it sets up somewhere around this range here. So essentially for AU, we're going to be looking for continuation buys up to follow the trend at the current moment, and we'll see how it moves from here. Potentially, if it reaches this point, although this has been mitigated, I want to be aware of this region here because it has broken structure. So essentially, this is still a valid supply zone. So I just want to be aware of this point. But if we're going to be taking any buys here, we want to set our take profit and on this swing point here. So essentially for GU, what we've been seeing so far is quite a bit of bullish price action. We haven't really been seeing some clear market structure. You know, this isn't the clearest market structure, but you can see several mitigations in this region. The reason why I'm looking at the 3 hour time frame is because it's the cleanest looking one for me. So if we look at just all the mitigations that have taken place, although this one barely touched it, this was a mitigation of a demand zone over here, and we've also got another one over here. Right, you could even mark this one up, but I think this one was the most clearest. If you drop time frames, you might be able to see a clearer picture. So essentially, yeah, it's just these last few sell candles that were the mitigation point for this region. So what we've been seeing really is just really proper bullish market structure just taking place, right? We've got mitigation upon mitigation. So what we could be looking forward to next is a proper break of this high, creating a higher high here, followed by another demand zone that will be created somewhere in this region, or price might just linger about and then create another demand zone that we can look to take buys from. If it does break structure on this higher low point, right? If it creates a lower low here, and then we can look for some sells at this region, right? We just want to be aware of what's going on, but at the moment, just with how price action's looking, we want to see some potential buys at this region. If we drop time frames, you won't really see anything as clear now. So at the moment, I'm not really seeing any clear demand zones. If you look at a 3 hour, you could see something even clearer here. So essentially, this would be the demand zone. I usually want to include the wick of this candle as well, just to be safe, because there might be something that is not mitigated at this point yet. So we want to include that wick as well. So essentially, we could be looking for some buys in this demand zone region over here, but that only applies if it breaks this high. If it doesn't, then we want to see a break of structure to this point, creating a low low, and then we'll look for sells on this region down. So essentially for GU for this upcoming week, we're gonna just be looking for some potential buys here, right? In terms of swings. And then if these buys don't play out, and if price just ranges about, we'll just look for some lower time frame entries in the London Open or even on the Asian session, which I've been trading recently. So yeah, I think for these two pairs, we just want to wait for a mitigation of these regions that I've marked up. And if we're in the process of moving towards that mitigation point, we can take some short-term trades towards those demand or supply zones that we have. We want to be mindful not to overtrade and just be patient with how the market moves, because if you're going to be trading higher time frame zones, um, being patient is pretty important because it takes a while to just reach those zones. So we just want to be aware of how the market's moving and also move with the market and not against it. So that will be all for my GU forecast for this upcoming week.